Wow.
Mhm.
Don't remember.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding.
Is connecting to the YouTube. 1 second. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. Hare Krishna will be reading beginning with Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit. Introduction. Ranath, you can start. You can see the screen?
No, Prabhu.
No? Okay, just a minute. Wait, you have to still, yeah. You can see now?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
From childhood, Srila Prabhupada worshipped Lord Krishna, understanding him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of all existence. And beginning at age 22, after his first meeting with his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura, Srila Prabhupada became more and more active in spreading the teachings of Lord Krishna. In Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, Volume 1, we see Srila Prabhupada struggling alone to publish Back to Godhead magazine, personally typing, editing, visiting the printer, and then distributing the copies on the streets of New Delhi. Working alone in Jhansi, India, Prabhupada gathered a few part time followers to create the League of Devotees, an early attempt to enact his vision of introducing people from all nations, races, and levels of society to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada was still alone as he arrived in America in 1965, but he was filled with faith in Krishna and determination to establish Krishna consciousness in the West and thus fulfill the desire of his spiritual master and the prediction of the scriptures and previous saints. Young men and women on New York's Lower East Side joined, attracted not so much to Vedic culture as to Swamiji and his chanting of Hare Krishna. Thus, beginning from a small storefront, Srila Prabhupada introduced the Hare Krishna movement to America.
Cycling Prabhu.
We follow Srila Prabhupada to San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury during the hippie heyday of 1967, as he establishes his Krishna consciousness movement there, just he had done in New York City. Then in May of 67, he appeared to suffer a heart attack and retired to India to recuperate. It became even clearer that the Krishna consciousness movement, its life and its growth, depended entirely upon him. Although a few dozen sincere workers were dedicated to his service, they felt helpless and incompetent to do any missionary work, or even to maintain their own spiritual vows to abstain from illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, unless he were personally present to lead them. In December 1967, Srila Prabhupada returned to America and his young spiritual family.
Just a minute.
As Srila Prabhupada would comment several years later, his movement did not really begin until this return to America in December 1967. His time was limited. He knew the heart attack had proven that now, in whatever time was left, he had to accomplish his mission. And as his International Society of Krishna Consciousness began to grow, it gradually spread beyond its simple and sometimes humorous beginnings to become a spiritual institution considered noteworthy even among world religions.
Continue.
In the present volume, we follow Srila Prabhupada through the years of his greatest active participation in ISKCON, the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, as its sole leader. In 1968, Srila Prabhupada has approximately 50 disciples and 6 ISKCON centers. Although his followers have increased their numbers, most of them are no more than sincere neophytes. Prabhupada is personally available to each of his disciples, and he continues to manage and maintain each ISKCON center. Then, in July of 1970, Srila Prabhupada forms his governing body commission and begins to turn over ISKCON's management to his board of GBC secretaries. Yet we find Prabhupada still actively guiding the activities of his society, expanded by 1971 to 600 disciples and 65 centers.
Wow. Atul Harinam Prabhu. You can read Atul Harinam Prabhu. Okay.
Sorry, Prabhu, she is there, so it's
Okay, no problem. Is it Kiran or Babita who is on the call? Kiran?
Yes, Prabhu,
Maybe.
I'm here, Prabhu.
You can read Babita. Yeah.
Yes. Although the teachings of Krishna consciousness have existed since time immemorial within India's Sanskrit Vedic literatures and are the origin and essence of all religious expression. Until Srila Prabhupada began his preaching, Krishna consciousness in its original purity had never been widely spread. In the most popular and basic Vedic text, Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna teaches that he is the supreme personality of Godhead and that real religion, real knowledge, and real endeavor can be understood only when one dedicates his life to the loving service of the Lord. Only full surrender to the Supreme can bring one freedom from the laws of karma and the cycle of repeated birth and death.
In the next one.
Yes, Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada was convinced that devotional service to Lord Krishna is life's goal and that to engage others in devotional service is the highest welfare activity. And these convictions drove him in his traveling and preaching on behalf of his spiritual master and Krishna.
Thank you. Is Pranath Prabhu Mataji was there with you or something? Just checking.
Yes, Prabhu, I'm here.
Oh, you can read.
Srila Prabhupada's success in spreading Krishna consciousness was due to his being directly empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chaitanya Charitamrita states, Kali Kalera Dharma Krishna Nama Sankirtana Krishna Shakti Vinanaye Tare Pravarthana. The fundamental religious system in the age of Kali is the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Unless empowered by Krishna, one cannot propagate the Sankirtana movement. Yet, although Srila Prabhupada was empowered, his life story is not one in which success comes neatly and automatically, everything being miraculously enacted by God. Rather, Srila Prabhupada's story is one of the constant attempts on behalf of his spiritual master. Successes come, but only after great endeavor and faith.
Very nice. Nikunja Gupta Mataji, please.
Prabhupada encountered difficulties in trying to spread love of God in a godless world. He sometimes met opposition from governments, the media, the religionists, including those in India. And even within his own society, he met difficulties caused when his neophyte disciples fell to the allurements of the material world. Yet through all difficulties, Srila Prabhupada preserved with the sublime tolerance, kindness, and unflinching determination of a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. By material standards, it is extraordinary that a person of Srila Prabhupada's age could constantly travel, confronting problems and opposition and simultaneously produced volume after volume of translated Vedic literatures. But material vision cannot comprehend Srila Prabhupada's activities. He was truly a Mahatma, as described by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. The Mahatmas are always working under the direction of my internal energy. In spreading Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada was far from merely a religious geologist trying to increase a sect. His writing, traveling, and preaching were done in pure devotion to Lord Krishna and were therefore transcendental. It was Krishna himself, Srila Prabhupada saw, who was bringing the results. Lord Chaitanya.
Okay. No, yeah, I think, thank you so much. Prasanthi?
Lord Chaitanya has stated, Prithvi te ache yata nagaradi grama sarvatra prachara haibi mora nama. In every town and village, the chanting of my name will be heard. These words, directly spoken by Lord Chaitanya, are certainly true. The Lord's prediction must come to pass. Many Gaudiya Vaishnavas, however, even as recently as the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, considered the Lord's prediction problematic. The name of Lord Chaitanya in every town and village, should this be taken allegorically? Certainly, the Americans, the Europeans, the Africans, the Polynesians, the Mongolians, the uncultured Mlechas outside of India could never become Vaishnavas. Thus, Lord Chaitanya's words had seemed an enigmatic topic for speculation.
Yeah, very nice. Swati Mataji?
Srila Prabhupada, however, was under the order from his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, to preach the Krishna consciousness beyond India. And alone in 1965, he took the great step and left India, crossing the Atlantic and began the International Society of Krishna Consciousness in New York City. Although some of the God brothers had gone to England some 30 years before, they had failed to establish anything and had even concluded that to give Krishna consciousness to the Western people was not possible. But Srila Prabhupada, fulfilling the Lord Chaitanya predictions, traveled and employed his disciples in traveling to open centers in New York City, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Boston, Montreal, Buffalo, Seattle. He also sent his disciples abroad to London and other countries, and they succeeded when Prabhupada God Brothers had failed.
Thank you. Srikar?
At the present, volume explains, Srila Prabhupada traveled not only to enlist new devotees and establish Krishna consciousness in new places around the world, but also to maintain what he had already begun. Had he not continued to travel to each temple, instructing his disciples, observing their progress, correcting their mistake, raising the standard of their Krishna consciousness, the devotees would not have been able to continue. Repeatedly, Prabhupada had to go around the world. Srila Prabhupada, by his faith in Krishna, by his selfless dedication to the order of his spiritual master, and by the blessings of Lord Chaitanya, did what no one else could have done. As Chaitanya Charitamrita states, Krishna Shakti Vina Nahe Tara Pravartana. Only one empowered by Lord Krishna can actually spread the chanting of Hare Krishna around the world.
Sridhari?
This volume is an account of years of struggle and ultimate fulfillment in Srila Prabhupada's life, and I invite the reader to relish them. Here is the rags to riches story of one who started alone with nothing but whose movement, writing, and personal life created an astounding and permanent impression on the world. By following Srila Prabhupada through these times, we gain an understanding of his exalted and humble life.
Vijayanand Prabhu?
I am unable to describe Srila Prabhupada fully. I have therefore composed an invocation praying that I be permitted to tell this story purely from the transcendental viewpoint. Otherwise, it would be ruined and incomprehensible. When properly told, the life of the pure devotee brings the greatest joy and benefit to the hearers.
Thank you so much. I hope everyone doing well as we are getting used to reading this book. I'm just this introduction. Any reflections before we go to chapter 1? I was not sure that we'll go to chapter 1 today. Looks like we can go. Any reflections anyone want to share from this? I request everyone share at least the portion you read it, if you can remember. That way, everyone gets, and it helps to remember.
Prabhu, sorry to interrupt. I think there is another section called invocation.
Where is that? Next one. Yeah, but we will have to finish the reflection now from this, then we'll go to invocation. One thing I remember, I remember that when it was mentioned that two things. When he had only 50 disciples, it had 60 centers. Is that right? Anyone remember?
65 centers, Prabhuji.
Yeah, 60 with 50 disciples. No.
650.
Yeah, and at the beginning, was it from previous one or?
Here it was I thought 650 disciples and 65 centers.
Oh, 650 disciples, huh?
Yeah, 600 disciples, I think, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
In the beginning 50 disciples and 6 centers, and then later on, after some years.
Oh yeah, you're right. Cycle and Prabhu. That's what I was referring to. 50 disciples, no?
Yeah.
And how many centers?
6 centers.
6 centers. 60. Okay. Yeah, it's here. Yeah, it's here. You all can see. In 1968, Srila Prabhupada had approximately 50 disciples and 6 centers. Okay. I was thinking 50 disciples, 60 centers. How he would be. Okay, Sama. Thank you. So this reflections helps in clearing the doubts. Any other things you all remember?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's always interesting when you see when you think, and I'm sure it gets into it in more detail, but at the time he came to America and where he came to America, and just kind of the general attitude and culture of the time, right? He showed up in the Lower East Side in the 60s, right, which is not a great place to be, and also at the peak of kind of the free love movement and all that. So just, it must have been very interesting to see him walking around the Lower East Side and the people that flock to him at the same time. It's just, it's kind of, you can't make it up, right? It's kind of hard to imagine how that even came to be,
Yes. Thank you.
The vision and faith, the vision, especially right from when he was in India, alone, running around, printing everywhere in Jhansi, right? Jhansi. And then also when he came here, he was all alone, he arrived. So just the vision he had when he was in India itself. And here Satswarup Goswami Maharaj writes that, an early attempt to enact his vision of introducing people from all nations. This was when he was back in India itself. That vision is so amazing. And then that faith and determination that we hear and see there's no words to describe.
Thank you. I remember somewhere it was mentioning in this one or previous that, of course, Prabhupada it is not very easy. He had to go through some struggle.
Correct.
Was it here? And then previous one.
I think here also we read that it's only without nothing comes easy, something like that we read. Yeah. Right.
And the dedication that he had, even though his godbrothers had failed before him.
Yeah, 30 years before he came, 30 years before they came.
Yeah.
Right, and they could not do it.
In here itself, in one of the paragraphs we read, Prabhu, success comes but only after great endeavor and faith. If you scroll down. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, what it was, so many things he had to go through, right?
Yeah. Scroll down.
Difficult. Prabhupada encountered difficulties. Yeah, in trying to spread the love of God, right?
Yeah, but also the line of the sentence, last sentence of the previous paragraph.
Okay, yeah. Constant attempts on behalf of successes come, but only after great endeavor and faith. He had opposition with so many things: government, media, religionist, Indian, and not to be surprised. I think those who are trying to preach, we all know how painful it is. At least we got used to it now, a little bit. But it is how painful to give Krishna to anyone. So now here it says that, yet through all difficulties, Srila Prabhupada persevered with the sublime tolerance, kindness, and unflinching determination of a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. So with this, we can see pure devotees can do wonderful. Anyone else? Some more reflection?
One more out of me, I promise. I think it's also interesting, right? If I don't recall which paragraph it is, but it says after he had his heart attack and he went back to India.
Yeah.
And it shows just how
67.
Yeah, how and how everything almost fell apart, right? He says, as you can see down towards the end of the paragraph.
This one.
Yep. And then you can see it says, hey, these guys weren't even, the devotees here weren't even able to maintain their vows. They had no direction. If he had stayed in India, it would have never, that would have been the end of Krishna consciousness in America at the time. But the fact that he, recovered, came back and stayed with it is huge, right? I mean, that could have been the end of it all in America right then.
That's very nice. Yeah, Prabhupada, his entry, he had to go because he could not take it, his body. In 1967, he went, and December 67, he came back. So after recovering, right? In December 67, he returned to America and his young spiritual family. Okay, anything else? That's why we need many heads to remember. Now, whatever we discussed, reflections we gave, that helps us to remember. We will go through here. So this present volume, the one which you're focusing here, to the years of his greatest activity participation in ISKCON as its sole leader. In 1968, Prabhupada has approximately 50 disciples and 6 ISKCON centers. All these followers have increased their numbers. Most of them were neophytes. And Prabhupada is personally available. Here, this is the thing. Prabhupada was personally available to each of his disciples, and he continues to manage and maintain each ISKCON center. Then in July of 1970, Prabhupada forms his GBC, begins to turn over ISKCON's management to his board of GBC secretaries. Yet we find Prabhupada still actively guiding the activities of his society, expanded by 1971 to 600 disciples and 65 centers. Very nice. There's one more point, if is the color kali. Yeah. Here it says, Srila Prabhupada's success in spreading Krishna consciousness was due to his being directly empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord's mercy is needed, and this Kali Kala Dharma Krishna Nama Sankirtana, Krishna Sakti Vina Nahe Taro Pravartana. So without the mercy of the Lord, sanction of the Lord, um, one cannot propagate the Krishna Sankirtana movement. Very nice. Any final thoughts before we move to the next one? Okay. Nice. So hopefully this one will pay attention and we will share. Everyone can share a little bit. Now the idea is it helps each one of us, every one of us, and we all become because we are the followers of Prabhupada. We are Prabhupada Nugas. This reading is if we have to actively participate, it is going to help. I don't have good memory. Actually, I was thinking of taking a note, right? Because many important incidents we will go through. So I was planning after taking a note also, highlight the important incidents. Is going to come from chapter 1, just sharing is my thought. Okay, who is, AJ, you please begin invocation.
According to Krishnadasa Kavaraja, an invocation involves offering obeisances, defining the objective, and bestowing benedictions. I offer my respectful obeisances to my eternal spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, whose service is my life and soul. It is for his pleasure that I offer Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada LILAMRITA as an act of devotional service. He has blessed the entire world with Krishna consciousness, and he is therefore the best friend of all people and all living entities. He is the most powerful Acharya, delivering pure love of God, and he is delivering the message of Lord Chaitanya strictly in disciplic succession. No one else has ever spread Krishna consciousness as widely as he. I am praying that he will allow me to surmount the difficulties involved in presenting his biography, and that he will be pleased with the results. I am convinced that by his good wishes, his work can be successful, and that if he is not pleased, I am powerless to write anything of merit.
Very nice. Vijayan Prabhu, you can read 2 paragraphs.
By offering obeisances to my spiritual master, I am offering respects to all other acharyas in the disciplic succession, to Srila Prabhupada's Guru, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura, to his Guru, and so on, to the 6 Goswamis, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna himself. Only by the grace of Srila Prabhupada can I bow down in the temple, prostrate at the lotus feet of Gauranitai, Krishna Balarama, and Radha Shamsundara, and have access to their mercy. One objective of Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita is to present the life and teachings of Srila Prabhupada in the transcendental perspective, never portraying Srila Prabhupada as an ordinary man subject to the modes of nature. Srila Prabhupada was a divinely empowered pure devotee. He was sent to this world by the Supreme Lord just to spread Krishna consciousness movement to people of all nations, races, classes, and creeds, and thus to offer everyone the opportunity to become a pure devotee and go back to Godhead.
Sridhar or Srika?
Another objective of this work is to attract the leaders and influential members of society to appreciate and love Srila Prabhupada. This biography must be honest, factual, and correct in transcendental knowledge, and it must captivate and please the reader. Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrit must enlighten and please and also move the reader to inquire into writings of Srila Prabhupada. My ultimate objective is that the reader be further moved to take up service to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Although it is, yes, ma'am.
Although it is appropriate while writing an invocation to offer a benediction to the reader, I am fallen and cannot offer any benedictions. Yet I can confidently assure my readers that by reading the life and teachings of Srila Prabhupada, they will gain quick access to the mercy of Krishna, because it is only by the mercy of a great devotee that anyone gets the mercy of Krishna. By reading Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita, those who associated with and served Srila Prabhupada will refresh their remembrance of him and thus derive ecstasy and rededication to his service. Those who never knew Srila Prabhupada will also be blessed because, according to the Vedic literatures, even a moment's association with the pure devotee can make one's life perfect. To read Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita is to associate with Srila Prabhupada through the transcendental process of hearing. Therefore, I Although I myself cannot award any benediction to my readers, this work can do so, as it attracts everyone to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you. Swati Mataji, 2 paragraphs.
Thus, having made the invocation to this work, offering obeisances, describing my objectives, and offering the benedictions, I remain fallen and dumb, begging at the lotus feet of my Guru Maharaj and waiting for his mercy, which alone can allow this poor writer and poor devotee to speak well. My dear Srila Prabhupada, my dear Lord Krishna, if you think I can be trusted to write correctly, then please allow me to do so. There is a great need for this transcendental literature. As a human being of Kali Yuga are in a deplorable state of spiritual blindness with no knowledge of relief to be gained by service to the pure devotee. The devotees of the Lord and many sincere followers of Srila Prabhupada are eagerly receiving this work. They want to hear more and more of Srila Prabhupada activities and instructions, and they want to see them presenting expertly so that others may also become attracted to join us in loving, dedicated service to Guru and Gauranga.
Nikunj Gupta Mataji, you can finish this.
My dear Srila Prabhupada, I know I have to work hard to produce this literature, and I promise to do so, but my efforts will only be spinning off concocted, empty words unless you become present in these words and bring them to life with transcendental potency. Satsvarup Goswami.
Oh, such a wonderful. So, in reflection with these invocations, anyone, I just want to repeat that here, the same statement, which is that any invocation involves, as Rupa Goswami mentioned, offering obeisances to the spiritual master and the deities, and defining the objective and bestowing the benediction to the readers. These are 3 things. So primarily the invocation is this, what we read is have these 3 things in section. In invocation, he offered here. So in offering obeisances, he did here is to my eternal spiritual master, His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, whose service is my life and soul. It's amazing, isn't it? How Saraswati Sai Maharaj could write such volumes of books. So many books he has written. And this Prabhupada LILAMRITA also such a great clarity, every incident. And it is for his pleasure that I offered Srila Prabhupada's LILAMRITA as an act of devotional service for Prabhupada's. He has blessed the entire world with Krishna consciousness. And he is the best, therefore best friend of all people living in people and all living entities. He is the most powerful Acharya delivering pure love of God and is delivering the message of Lord Chaitanya strictly in disciplic succession. And here this point is no one else has ever spread Krishna consciousness as widely as he. Anyone had, I'm sure many of you contemplated, that's why no one can, many times people will not accept, it's always easy to glorify to the organization where you serve, you're part of it. But Prabhupada is certainly unique. No one else had brought outside of India especially. It's such a miracle. Then he says, I'm praying that he will allow me to surmount the difficulties involved in presenting his biography and that he will be pleased with. So here he's offering obeisances to Srila Prabhupada in the first obeisance. Yes. Anyone else want to say? This section. Yeah.
So here, like Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj says that one of the objectives of writing this Lilamrita is to present the life and teachings of Prabhupada in a transcendental perspective. He just want to make ensure that the readers do not consider Prabhupada as a normal, like any other normal person subjected to the modes of material nature. He's like supremely empowered, pure devotee of the Lord.
And he says he is sent to this world by the Supreme Lord just to spread the Krishna conscious movement to the people of all nations, races, class. And now this is giving the objective. Its objective is beginning right from here, right? But here the offering, he also offered obeisances to the parampara. He began with Prabhupada, parampara, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Lord Krishna himself before he writes this LILAMRITA. And here this section is objective as Sri mentioned. And what is the another objective? This one? Anyone who read it can tell?
Attract the leaders and influential members of society.
Even though they're, those, even if they have not met. Isn't it's there? I think somewhere is even if another objective of this work is to attract the leaders and influential members of society to appreciate and love Srila Prabhupada. It's interesting. Prabhupada came to actually influence this kind of people, right? If you all know. Now he ended up with hippies. Now, with the writings of the objective of writing Lilamrita also of Sasur Sai Maharaj is again going back to attract the leaders and the influential members of the society. And Prabhupada also said this when the Gurukul, okay, they were successful, now fill the Gurukul and bring the first class people of the society. He also said that bring the first class people of the society. Because it's very unusual to get hippie people get into pure devotees. Only Prabhupada could do it.
Prabhu, I have a question. So how do we understand this when we also read and hear that that on the contrary, less popular and less influential people in the society will easily take up Krishna consciousness, right? You know what I mean?
Yes. I think it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to everybody, to get everyone, not to our movement is we don't discriminate much. But somehow Ravindra Prabhu says that somehow or other even hippies came. And if you remember that, right, there was a bargain happened between Prabhupada and Krishna. Ravindra Prabhu says that is that Prabhupada didn't expect that these people will come. He came with a high expectation that he will be influencing. Then Krishna says no. Prabhupada says that I want. So Prabhupada says that is a special mercy of Krishna that even this totally unconscious hippies could get. That's the Ravindra Prabhu told as a bargain. Now, if I understand correctly, that but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu movement is to give Jara Dekho Tareko and Papi Tapi Jotatilo. Narottam Das Thakur says Papi Tapi Jotatilo. It's very easy. It's very easy for people who has committed sinful activities, but at least they feel a little guilty. So if they feel a little guilty, accept their weaknesses, sin, then they will be able to change. On the other hand, the one who is not committing much sin or very influential, very after, it's very hard to convince them. But for us, we will try to everybody, except those the people who are envious of the movement. That's what you're asking. Am I understanding correctly?
Yes, Prabhu, just that from an objective point of view, because we read many places that even in Prabhupada in his lectures keep, emphasizes that people who have not much or who are less materially opulent are easily they take up Krishna consciousness, right? So that's what I was, from.
The two things mentioned here, some of the things meetings helps me, I can tell, is that, yeah, those who are materially impoverished or very simple, is for them very easily to accept Krishna consciousness. But in order to impact the world, you must influence the society. That's why our leaders say that even though Prabhupada, had these followers, but he never hesitated to contact with other followers, including the church, what do you call, the with the Pope. Yeah. So he met, and at least he wanted to make the synthesizers. He wanted to make this. There are two things: one, making devotees, and making sympathizers. And because sympathizers is also very important, even though they do not become devotees, because they are going to. It's like a networking. So at least difficult times, they will have good. They will support. They will support morally, or they support financially also. That's why yesterday, Vishnugata Prabhu's class, if you remember, was Allen Ginsberg. Yeah. Allen Ginsberg. Yeah. What he was expecting from him, and George Harrison also. Primarily, he was taking from them their fame. They are become the instruments and the recipients for other people. So that's why here, if you say influential members of the society appreciate, even if they do not take it to Krishna consciousness, because they already have their own, societies, branches, their own name and fame positions. So we can make them as sympathizers for us. That's why networking helps. I hope why we are networking with this temple, that temple. They may not take it, but at least they might help us to promote or support us in difficult times, because we are the small society.
I think, I was gonna say, I think it's also worth mentioning that, and at least in my understanding, a lot of the folks in that original kind of hippie movement in the late 60s, it was kind of a poverty by choice, in a sense, where they weren't, you know what I mean? They were typically kind of middle class to upper middle class white kids that had the ability to drop out of life and say, hey, you know what, they essentially had a safety net to an extent where they could say, you know what, I'm just going to go bum around for a bit, because they know they had the option of going back typically. So even then, those original devotees to an extent were members of that society, of that influential society. They just weren't living that life at the time, if that makes sense. At least that's my understanding.
Yeah, right. Your point is right, because Giriraj Swami Maharaj was scheduled to come this May. I contacted him. He's going to give us some online class on June beginning. So he was scheduled to give some few days in Delaware. He himself is one of the witness example that how he was from the very influential family, very rich family. So, but on the other hand, even if they're rich, I understand, but still their psychological condition was not very good. The physical condition was not very good. The one who's drinking, the one who's addicted, hippies were not suitable for taking bhakti. But somehow the special mercy happened by the association of devotees. It is working. So Pranath Prabhu, this is what I did.
I was actually also thinking maybe, this, I was thinking on the lines of maybe we should distribute Prabhupada LILAMRITA to some of these leaders, That's where, my thought was going in that direction. So they can see that this is a genuine attempt, and this was a desire of, the founder Acharya so maybe we can give, 2 volumes, we should be able to.
Yeah, we have a lot of Prabhupada nectar also, we have.
Yeah.
But primarily,
if they read something like this, they can connect to this also, so that.
So I'm glad you brought this point, because attract the leaders and influence in the society. If they become devotee, okay, whether followers also can become devotee, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we read it.
Right.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was he was a pandit, he was a scholar, and he had a lot of followers. And once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, the Supreme Lord, become devotees, followers also become. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was a big leader. Mayavadli, then once he became devotee, his followers become. Saraswati, what is that? Um, um, from Gaya. Prakashananda Saraswati. He also became, but nowadays, as the time is become so fallen, people have so many leadership positions they have already taken. They will not take. They will appreciate it. They will appreciate it. We have to make friendship. If they take it, their followers also might be probably. At least we can build some sympathizers also. Building some sympathizers is also a very big approach for ISKCON. And Prabhupada utilized all of them during his time also. Um, um, so both, we don't want to give up. Yeah, it's a good thing to take advantage of and at least spread the glories of Srila Prabhupada, whatever people can take. I know it's 8:36. Any final comments? Any Mataji who want to give final this thing? So at the end, he's here. He mentioned his objectives. We can go through again if we get time. He gave the objectives. Then finally, he's giving benedictions. What he's saying? I cannot give benediction. He feeling he's taking a humble position. Did he say right here benediction? Yeah. Yeah. Thus, I have made the invocation of this work, offering obeisances, describing my objectives, and offering benedictions is here actually. Yeah. Although it is inappropriate while writing an invocation to offer benediction to the readers, I'm fallen and I cannot offer any benediction. Yet, I'm confidently assure my readers that by reading the life and teachings of Srila Prabhupada, they will gain quick access to the mercy of Krishna. Because it is only by the mercy of the great devotee that anyone gets the mercy of Krishna. So Sasrudas Gosai Maharaj is taking very humble position. Even though he can give the benediction, but he's offering benediction, but in this way. And thank you so much. So I hope everyone had a wonderful time. Let's have active participation tomorrow onwards. You can share it, don't be shy. And this is the right opportunity that we become open up and preach. We'll continue tomorrow. Okay. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Jai Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna, just let me know if I'm talking too much.
No, you should talk. That's the idea. We need to make this. I'm expecting you to help with this conversation, because when few devotees, because you have a good English anyway.
And I noticed some of that, and this may have just been me thinking that when the devotee that spoke on, gosh, was that only last night? Was that Friday